He died. Yes, he died over 30 years ago. Yet he lived again. Why? How? That is the riddle. One day, his past came knocking, dragging along an old woman who knew the truth. And the reason he returned will twist your soul. Gather round, O children of the fire. Lean close, for the night carries a tale soaked in mystery and wrapped in old dust. The old moon sat high in the sky, her light kissing the earth with silver fingers. Iansi, bent with age but sharp as thunder, zipped from the glass of water on the table in front of him, and spoke. A family once lived, joyful like morning birds, their laughter sweeter than palm wine. A husband, a wife, 3 children, all glowing like stars. They lived in a city far from their roots, in a place where noise never slept. But not all is as it seems. For the father carried a secret so old, even the winds had forgotten. He paused, eyes dancing in the firelight. He sat up straight, then he said, "So listen with your ears, but more with your heart. This story is not just about the dead. It is about the living who never left. Are you ready, my children? But before I continue, let me ask you a question. Have you subscribed to our YouTube African Folktale channel at TV Perot Folklore Hub? If not, kindly do so now. Comment and share. Now, let the tale begin. In the heart of bustling Ibadan, where yellow and red painted buses honk like stubborn goats and street hawkers sing louder than birds, there lived the Adagoke family, a home so full of joy that even sorrow would feel out of place. Papa Tunde, tall and gentle, was the kind of man who greeted even strangers with a smile that could calm thunder. Mama Aduke, his wife of 25 years, was known for her pepper stew and softer-than-honey voice. Together, they raised 3 children, Saad the Wise, Dio the Brave, and little Timi, the one who asked too many questions. Their bungalow sat quietly on a corner street, wrapped in hibiscus and painted stories. Inside, laughter lived in the walls. Every morning began with prayer and pop. Every evening ended with games, music, and moonlight stories. They had their struggles, bills, broken generators, and Lagos traffic, but they faced them together. Neighbors would whisper, "May my home be like the Adagokes," but beneath the peaceful roof, something ancient stirred, something Papa Tunde buried deep beneath his daily smile. He watched his family closely, especially Timi, who sometimes stared at him like he could see through him. The winds were shifting, and so the tale tightens. Papa Tund was loved by many, yet he puzzled a few. He walked with quiet grace, like a man whose feet had touched many paths. He spoke in proverbs older than his age, and sometimes, in his sleep, he muttered names no one recognized. He never attended funerals, not even when a close friend passed. "I've seen enough death," he would say, eyes clouding like harmattan mist. He never explained what he meant. Mama Aduke chalked it up to trauma from his youth, but Timi, young and sharp like fresh pepper, began to watch his father closer. Every night, Papa would sit alone in the backyard, gazing at the moon as if it held answers. He would hum songs not heard in decades, in dialects unfamiliar even to Aduke, who prided herself on knowing every tongue from Oyo to Ijebu. One evening, while helping Papa polish his shoes, Timi found a small, ancient wooden bead tucked in his father's sock drawer. It looked like it belonged to an elder from another time. "Papa, what is this?" Papa froze. "It's just old," he whispered, and pocketed it quickly. But his hands trembled. The past was no longer sleeping. It was turning in its grave. It was a quiet Saturday when the stranger arrived. He came on a rusted motorcycle, dusty from travel, and stopped outside the Atagoka home. The man looked tired, eyes sunken but sharp, like someone who had chased ghosts for years. His clothes were plain, but something about his face made Mama Aduki pause. "Good afternoon, sir," she greeted with her usual warmth. I'm looking for someone," the man stammered. "His name is Tunde Adagoki." Before she could reply, Papa Tunde stepped out from behind the curtains. The moment their eyes met, the stranger gasped, stumbled backward, and fell. "Arawalo!" he cried out. It cannot be. You died. You died 32 years ago." Silence swallowed the compound. Even the birds stopped chirping. Papa Tunde's face turned pale like ash from an old fire. He opened his mouth to speak, but only silence came out. Mama Aduki rushed to the man's side, while their children stood frozen at the door. The stranger wept, trembling as he whispered, "It is you, Arowolo, my elder brother. I buried you with my hands." But Papa said nothing, just stared. Timi watched from the doorway, heart pounding. Something was terribly wrong, and the wind had started whispering names again. That night, Mama Aduk couldn't sleep. The stranger's voice haunted her ears. "Arowolo, you died 32 years ago." She turned and turned in bed until sleep finally pulled her into its strange waters. In the dream, she stood by a burning river. Fire danced across the surface like angry spirits, and in the middle of it, a man screamed, not in pain, but in regret. Behind her, a woman dressed in white wept, holding a baby wrapped in palm leaves. The woman looked like her, but older, wiser and broken. Then from the flames, a voice echoed, "You promised, but you forgot. You left us." Aduki woke up, gasping, drenched in sweat. Papa Tundi sat at the edge of the bed, already awake, staring at the moon through the window. His back was straight, his hands clenched. "Bad dream?" he asked without turning. She nodded, breathing hard. It felt real. He finally looked at her, eyes heavy with something ancient. "Sometimes, dreams are more memory than magic." She blinked. "What does that mean?" He reached out to hold her hand. "It means some dreams aren't yours alone." In the quiet that followed, only the ticking clock dared to speak, and far away, the past kept walking closer. Ibadan's market buzzed like a hive, filled with calls of traders, clinking coins, and thick spices in the air. Mama Aduk went to buy vegetables, trying to distract her mind from the strange dream and the man who called her husband Arowolo. As she bargained over tomatoes, she heard a woman scream behind her. "Jesu, that man, he walks again!" Turning, she saw the market woman known as Mama Akam, a respected elder, pointing with trembling fingers. "That man, that's my brother Arowolo. He died before my first grandchild was born. I saw them bury him." Mama Aduka's heart skipped. The man she pointed at was Papa Tunde, just a few stalls away, buying plantains. "No, that's my husband," Aduki said firmly. But Mama Akim shook her head, tears in her eyes. "He walked just like this, same birthmark under the eye. Same way he scratches his chin when thinking. That's Arowolo. I swear on my husband's grave." People began to gather. Papa Tunda saw the crowd, saw the pointing hand, and turned away calmly, walking off without a word. Whispers filled the market like rising smoke, and somewhere in the shadows, Fate was already writing the next page. Far away in a quiet village wrapped in forest silence, an old woman stirred from a dream. Her eyes, though blind, were wide with urgency. She called her daughter. "The drums have spoken. He walks again. We must go." Her daughter, Ronke, had never seen her mother like this. With shaking hands, she packed a bag and helped her into an old bus bound for Ibadan. Meanwhile, in Ibadan, the Adegoke house felt heavy. Papa Tunde grew quieter. He barely ate. He sat under the mango tree behind the house and whispered names no one understood. 3 days later, Ronke arrived with her mother. The moment the blind woman stepped into their compound, she knelt and began to weep. "Arawolo, my son has returned." Mama Aduk, confused and unsettled, held back the children. Papa Tunde came out slowly, his eyes locking with the blind woman's. She reached out and touched his face, then gasped, "The scar, the spirit, it's you." "I don't know you," Papa said calmly. "You once did," she replied, tears falling. "You left a shrine unfulfilled. That shrine has waited. The gods have waited." Suddenly, a loud clap of thunder broke across a cloudless sky. Even the air stopped breathing. The house had never been this quiet. The children clung to Mama Duke as the blind woman whispered old names and forgotten songs. Papa Tunde sat on the veranda, face blank, like a man walking 2 lives. At last, he called the family together. "Sit, all of you," he said, voice deep and distant. They obeyed. The air felt heavy, like rain was waiting in the clouds. "There's a story I must tell. Not from books, not from dreams, from before now." He took a deep breath. "My name was Arawolo. I lived in Okirisi village. I was the firstborn son of a shrine keeper. I was meant to carry the staff, but I left. I chose love over duty. I ran. I died young, cursed by the gods for abandoning my path." Mama Aduk's eyes widened. "I begged for another chance. I vowed, if ever I returned, I would live not for myself, but for love, for family." Timi's voice trembled. "You died?" Papa nodded. 32 years ago." The blind woman wept. "And the gods answered. They sent you back." Silence. Then Mama Duke whispered, "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because," he said slowly, "you were part of the vow, and that changed everything." The wind howled softly, as if eavesdropping. Papa Tunde stood up slowly, eyes distant. "I was given a second chance, but not for myself," he began. "Before I died, I made a vow at the mouth of the sacred Igbo Urun shrine. I pleaded, let me come back, not as a king, not as a healer, but as a father, to protect a child not yet born." He looked at little Timi. The gods agreed, but warned, one day the past will knock, and when it does, you must open the door with truth. Mama Aduke's breath caught in her throat. "Why Timi?" Papa Tunde's voice softened. "Because Timi is not an ordinary child. He carries the spirit of the priest I failed to become. The gods preserved that path through him." The blind woman nodded. "That boy is marked, born on the same day Arawolo died. That's no accident." Dio stood. "So, all this, our family, was built on a broken promise?" "No," Papa replied. "It was built on redemption." They all sat in stunned silence as the old woman whispered prayers to the wind. And somewhere in the unseen, a riddle was beginning to solve itself. Dawn. The Adegoke family packed their bags. No one asked why. The road was calling, not the tarred one beneath their car, but the spiritual path Papa Tundi once abandoned. Timi sat quietly, holding the ancient wooden bead he had found weeks ago. It pulsed with strange warmth now. They journeyed for hours, passing forests, rivers, and towns forgotten by time. When they finally reached Okeirisi, the village looked as if it had been waiting. Elders stood at the entrance. Drummers began to play slowly, not in celebration, but in reverence. The blind woman stepped down first. "We have brought him back," she declared. A silent hush fell as Papa Tundi emerged. The villagers gasped. "Arawolo," they whispered. The priestess of the shrine stepped forward, wrapped in white, her staff glowing faintly. "You were lost," she said, "but you have returned not alone, with blood, with truth, with the one chosen." She turned to Timmy. "The path is his now, but your soul must be cleansed." Papa Tunda knelt at the shrine's gate. Tears rolled freely. A ritual began. Drums quickened, ashes flew. Words were chanted that hadn't been heard in 3 decades. The past, present, and future had finally met. As the shrine doors opened, the wind shifted. Time itself seemed to hold its breath. Papa Tunde, Arawolo, knelt before the sacred flames. The priestess circled him thrice, chanting incantations older than memory. A bowl of water was placed before him. Another before Timmy. "Your soul has lived twice," she said, "but it has carried shame, fear, and silence." She sprinkled powdered chalk across his shoulders. He winced, not from pain, but from memories rushing back. Of the night he fled, of his brother's cries, of the gods' final warning. Then she turned to Timmy. "And you, chosen before birth, you carry not just his blood, but his undone destiny." Timmy's small hand gripped the wooden bead. It now glowed faintly. "Step forward, child." He obeyed. The priestess held her staff high. "Let the spirit that returned be freed from burden. Let the child who inherits the path begin his own." Suddenly, a gust of wind blew out all the shrine flames. Silence fell. Then, the fire reignited on its own. Papa Tunda collapsed, peaceful, tears streaming. Not in pain, not in fear, but in relief. The vow was complete, but something deeper had awakened. The gods, for the first time in decades, smiled. "Ah, my children, come closer. Let Iyansi, the old storyteller, place the final stone on this sacred tale. They say the past is buried, but what is buried by man, the gods may dig up in their own time. Papa Tunde, once Arawolo, came into this world twice, once in pride and once in purpose. He chose love, and the heavens gave him family. But the promise he broke lingered like smoke in the wind, following him across lifetimes. And the child, little Timmy? Mark my words. The boy who once played with toy cars now walks the path of the ancients. He holds wisdom beyond his age, for destiny does not wait for a beard before it speaks. As for Mama Aduk, her heart bore the truth, like a pot balanced on the head of faith. She loved a man with 2 lives, and still chose to stay. Now in the village of Okeiresi, a new shrine burns, not in punishment, but in peace. The ancestors dance in the wind, the gods nod in approval. And the riddle? A man died to be reborn, not to finish his own story, but to prepare the beginning of another. Now go, children, and never forget. Some secrets are not hidden. They are simply waiting to be told. If this story touched your spirit, don't let it end here. Children of wisdom, seekers of truth, like to honor the ancestors. Comment with your favorite lesson. Subscribe to hear the next fire under the stars. Until then, may your hands be clean, your heart be strong. I am Iyansi, the keeper of forgotten flames, and this was Whispers of the Past, the one who returned.